Hi everyone, this is Hannah. We have a guest today. His name is Keanu. So in my previous video, you probably know I work as a software engineer. When we think of software engineers, we might think it's a job that's doing coding. Yes, coding is one part of the job, but I would say it's a very small asset. Companies hire software engineers to build software products, solve technical problems, benefit customers, and eventually increase the business revenue. So software engineers are tied closely to the business. So in today's video, I want to share my understanding of being software engineer from a business perspective. I categorize the work of software engineers into three parts: maintain the system, product development, and innovation. So in the first part, maintain the system. In this part of the job, it's about maintaining the system maybe with high availability and resiliency depends on the system requirement. First of all, it includes the work of operation, such as monitoring the system performance and throughput and do patches and fixes as needed. We want our system to be transparent and resilient when failures happen and reduce impact to the customers. Normally, this part of work in most of the team is handled by the on-call person. The second part is maintaining the system security, such as updating the dependency to the long-term supported one, update the system security setting, or software deprecation. Software security is very important to the business since it keeps the customer's direct data and the business confidential information. As a software engineer, we want to make sure that the system we are building can keep the customer's data safe. In some of the company, there is a role called security engineer. Software engineer will work closely with them to get the software security certified. The third part of maintaining the system is working on the tech debts. What are tech debts? Technical debt is a term originated from agile development. It's all about prioritizing speedy delivery over perfect code. One example of tech debt is from my previous team. I was given an ad hoc request where I have to build a feature within a couple hours and it required me to parse XML. I wasn't able to simply bring in the XML parser library since there are a lot of dependency conflict that needs to be resolved. So as a trade-off, I decided to write my own XML parser library so I can kind of deliver that piece of task within the timeline. Obviously, there are a lot of benefits from the official XML parser library where it allows you to use annotation and bring new field like a lot easier, while the manually written code is harder to read and it's easier to make mistakes. But at that time, that is a trade-off I have to make, and then it introduces like a piece of tech debt into our code. Tech debts also include not well-tested code. Bringing bad code can really consuming more CPU and memory resources. So from a business perspective, tech debt can become a bottleneck at some point of preventing the business from growing. So operation, security, and tech debts are the three main segments of work to maintain the system healthy and stable. So how much time does a software engineer spend in this? I think it really depends on the team. If you're joining a new team that's building new feature from scratch, then you probably will spend more time in feature development than maintain the system. That's also a lot of engineers that really prefer to join a new team since the work just sounds more exciting. I used to be one of them, but after I've stayed in both kind of the teams, I learned that maintaining a highly critical system requires a lot of innovation and also creates a very large impact. We have talked a lot about the maintenance work that an engineer normally do. Now let's move on to the product or feature development work. Product development is easier to connect with the dollar number revenue. It's also the main part of engineering work in a lot of the teams. From a business perspective, we can divide the feature development into two parts: customer-facing and non-customer-facing. So how do we define customers here? If your team owns services, then all the clients are your customers. If your team owns web application or cloud application, then the consumers or who you serve for are your customers. For non-customer facing features, largely it's about building tools for internal automation. The goals of those projects are associated with increasing the team productivity. One example is building a data pipeline where it transfers the customer engagement data to the business data warehouse so everyone internally can take a look at it. It's not directly serve the customer, but it's such a crucial feature to expose the user engagement data to the product owner. For direct customer-facing features, it really can be big and small. For example, in an e-commerce shopping website, the feature change could be just change the checkout button position or adding a large feature such as adding the recommendation when a user search for the similar products. Okay, Keanu is back to join us. As a software engineer, you won't be the only one working on the product development. It's a very collaborative process. To better understand the role that a software engineer play in the product development cycle, let's first take a glance of a software development process. So the software development starts with initiating a product idea. Normally, PM will be the owner of the idea and will in charge of socializing and documenting the idea. Engineers will get involved at some point in this process to provide the feedback. After the idea gets settled and team has planned resource for it, it will move to execution. Engineers will get involved by starting proposing a technical design. So with the technical design, first of all, engineers will need to work very closely with PM, UX designers, and maybe other relative partners to confirm on the details of the product. And then engineers will define the scope of the technical and also the implementation steps. When the system design gets finalized, the engineer team should have a very solid understanding of the implementation steps, and all the questions should be answered from the design doc. After implementation, engineer will do the testings, maybe along with QA, before rolling out. In some circumstances, engineers need to define the rolling out strategy, such as only roll out the feature to a certain percentage of the customer in the first few weeks. Just want to observe on the positivity of the feature result before rolling out broadly. Hopefully, that's a comprehensive summary of what software engineers do in product development. Now let's move on to the third part of the job. It's also my favorite. Innovation. Innovation is not as straightforward as the previous two parts. I'm definitely still learning it, and I often get surprised by the broadness of the term. Technology is a fast change and fast-paced industry. For the few years when I worked at Amazon, I've experienced moving the system from Amazon local host to the native AWS. We have migrated APIs from gRPC framework to RESTful APIs and migrated one monolithic service into microservices. There are always a lot of changes going on. If you're not catching up with the change, other competitors might have more advanced ways to solve the problem. A lot of companies invest tons of money on innovation. Amazon Go is an innovation in grocery store shopping, where the stores are cashierless and customers can just grab and go. It's such a future-forward business idea, and it also involves a lot of the technical innovation. From a business perspective, innovation is what keeps a company on top of the market and beat the latecomers. It finds new areas that can profit the business as well. So accordingly, technical innovation is powering the business innovation. It can simplify a complicated process and help the business to better grow. So what does innovation really translate to real life as a software engineer? It involves identifying pain points, such as process pain points across team pain points or customer direct-facing pain points, brainstorm ideas, propose solutions, and convince others, get resource allocated and converted to an actual product. Sounds pretty complicated, right? But it also shows that engineers can make real impact since they have the first-hand context. As more grew into a senior software engineer, my understanding of this role changed a lot. When I first entered this industry, I was thinking software engineer is more about coding, writing bug-free code using fancy algorithm or data structure. But now I really prefer to understand this role from a different perspective. Why do companies hire software engineers? And what kind of problems can software engineer really solve to make customer happy and business grow? Personally, I think it's a really interesting job and I have a lot of passion about it. You'll get a chance to work with different partners and really play a key role in delivering products. To me, there are still a lot of things to learn. I hope you really enjoyed this video and see you in the next one. Keanu, say bye.